Hi class, we're going to talk about chapter 15 today. We were talking last time about making our interfaces pretty, our GUI user experiences, and this time we're going to be talking about handling events. And event-driven programming involves handling events that occur within our application. So those events could be the click of a button, the press of a key, touching of the screen, any sort of action that causes some sort of event to occur. Whenever we're working with Java and event-driven programming, an action event like the click of a button or whatever is going to involve some sort of item on our screen, on our user experience design, and that item is going to have associated itself with a listener, and that listener is going to be associated with a handler, an action handler that performs some sort of action when that event occurs. So we're going to keep all of this put together by creating a handler class. We have lots of other options to explore, looking at how to handle events. This will be our first one. So we're going to look at listing. Oh, here in just a second. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. First of all, what we're going to be doing is implementing an interface, an actual Java interface called Event Handler. And in that interface, we're going to specify a type of generic called Action Event. Now, we haven't really talked about generics yet, but just know that's something that's coming up. And whenever we see this greater than, less than bracketing, we're talking about a data type. And so this action event is some sort of class that's been defined to Java that allows us to use it as a data type. And we're going to, when we implement that event handler, we're going to have to override the handle method because that's going to be specified in that interface that we implement, the handle method. So here's an example. We have a class named OKHandler class, and it implements the event handler as required, and it uses the generic specification action event for what kind of event it's going to be handling. We go ahead and issue the @ override statement to say we're going to override the handle method of this event handler, and we're going to be expecting to be passed to us in our event an action event, and we're going to refer to that action event as E. We'll see later as to how that's going to impact us, but we're not going to return any value, so we'll have a void return value. Within our handle event, we do the code that we want, whatever we want to have happen when this event occurs. So in this case, we just want to print out this message that the OK button was clicked. So to reaffirm here, we're going to create a class, and then when we want to create a handler from that class, we'll be creating an instance of it. So in my tester, I will be creating an instance of this handler class. This case, I'll call it handler1. So my tester will become basically the consumer of my handler class. Now, I have a button here. I've created an instance of a button, and I'm going to use the setOnAction method that's associated with a button object to say, oh, the name of your handler, what should happen when there's an action, is named handler1. So all of those pieces are going to fit together to tie my event handler named OKHandler class and its handle method to my tester class. And in my tester class, I've created an instance of this OKHandler class, my instance here, and then I have a button that registers that handler as its handler using its setOnAction method. So we have some rules here. The handler object must be an instance of the corresponding event handler interface. So we see that happening here within our setup. The handler object must be registered by the source object, or our button. So lots of terminology there that we need to be aware of. Let's practice with this circle on page 590. So the code is supplied